You glimpse the complex internal structure, 3 levels of platforms where warriors will sit or crouch, reinforced with bracing that provides both strength and handholds. Small air holes, disguised as decorative elements, are strategically placed to provide minimal ventilation without revealing the hollow nature of the horse. 30 men inside that, mutters a soldier next to you. Like sardines in a clay pot. 30 of our best, corrects another. Men who don't panic in tight spaces. The conversation around you turns to speculation about who has volunteered and who has been selected for the mission. Names circulate. Odysseus, certainly. Diomedes. Menelaus has insisted on being included, driven by his need to reclaim Helen. Young Neoptolemus, Achilles' son, eager to prove himself worthy of his father's legacy, and of course Epius himself. The creator must accompany his creation. As the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, a new group arrives at the construction site. These aren't workers but warriors, the men chosen to hide inside the horse. They've come to familiarize themselves with the interior, to understand exactly how they'll fit into the cramped space. One by one, they climb the temporary ladder into the horse's belly. You recognize many of the faces, heroes of countless battles over the past decade. They disappear inside, their voices becoming muffled as they explore their future hiding place. Some emerge looking troubled by the confined space. Others seem grimly determined. None appear to have reconsidered their commitment to the plan. Odysseus is last to exit. He confers briefly with Epeius, then addresses the gathered warriors. "Tomorrow we practice," he announces. "Full equipment, full duration. We must know our limits before we face the real test." This pronouncement is met with solemn nods. Everyone understands what's at stake. One cough, one sneeze, one panicked outburst inside Troy, and all these men die. As evening approaches, work begins to slow. The main structure is largely complete, lacking only final exterior details and the all-important wheels that will allow the horse to be moved. Those components wait for tomorrow, the final day of construction. Epeius makes a circuit of the entire structure, inspecting every joint, every seam, every support. His expression alternates between satisfaction and concern as he notes small issues that still need addressing. He carries a piece of charcoal, marking areas that require attention with small crosses. Watching him, you're struck by the transformation. This is the same man who trembled in battle formation, who was mocked for his reluctance to engage in combat. Yet here, surrounded by his creation, he radiates absolute competence and authority. His orders are obeyed without question by men who would have jeered at him a week ago. As darkness falls, Agamemnon himself comes to inspect the progress. The High King walks slowly around the horse, his expression unreadable. Finally, he nods to Epeius. "It will serve," he says simply. Coming from Agamemnon, this qualifies as lavish praise. Workers are finally dismissed for the night, stumbling away toward cooking fires and wine rations. Many can barely stay awake long enough to eat. The pace has been punishing, the work physically demanding. Only Epeus remains, as he did the night before, but this time he's not alone. A small group gathers near him. Odysseus, Diomedes, a few others, spread around a diagram scratched in the dirt. They speak in low voices, discussing tomorrow's final stages and the plan that will follow completion. From your distance, you can't hear their words, but their body language speaks volumes. This is no longer theoretical. The horse is real, taking shape more impressively than anyone expected. Now they must ensure that the deception itself succeeds. Later, as camp settles into uneasy sleep, you notice something strange. Men are bringing small personal items to the horse, talismans, good luck charms, tiny offerings. Some murmur prayers as they touch the wooden flanks, others simply stand in silent contemplation. In just 2 days, this creation has transformed from Odysseus's desperate scheme to something approaching sacred. It embodies the army's collective hope for an end to the endless war, for a return to homes and families many have not seen in a decade. As you finally seek your own bedroll, exhaustion dragging at your limbs, you glance back at the looming silhouette of the horse against the starry sky. In the moonlight, it almost seems to breathe, to shift slightly as if impatient to fulfill its purpose. And standing sentinel beside it, a solitary figure remains, Epius, still working, still perfecting, still pouring his soul into the creation that will either bring glorious victory or spectacular defeat. Tomorrow, you think as sleep claims you, tomorrow the horse will be complete, and after that either home or Hades awaits. In your dreams, you see the horse again, but larger, impossibly massive, casting a shadow over all of Troy. It no longer resembles a gift, but a warning, a prophecy of doom, crafted in wood and bronze. And somewhere inside its cavernous belly, warriors wait with held breath and drawn swords, ready to unleash 10 years of accumulated rage upon the unsuspecting city. At the heart of it all stands Epius, not the trembling soldier, but the master craftsman, the man whose hands created destruction disguised as a gift, the unsung architect of Troy's downfall. The third day of construction brings a strange mood to the Greek camp. Men move with purpose, but speak in hushed tones. There's a tension in the air, the electric anticipation that precedes either triumph or disaster. Nothing in between seems possible now. When you reach the construction site, the horse stands nearly complete. In the clear morning light, it's even more impressive than it appeared the previous evening. Standing over 25 feet tall, its wooden body gleams with a coat of linseed oil that deepens the colour and protects the wood. Bronze fittings catch the sunlight, creating flashes of brilliance along its flanks. The carved head looks proudly toward Troy, as if eager for its journey. Epius directs the final efforts from the ground, his voice hoarse from 2 days of constant commands. Dark circles rim his eyes, but his focus hasn't wavered. If anything, his attention to detail has grown more intense as completion nears. The wheels, he instructs a team of wheelwrights, attach them exactly as I've marked. The balance must be perfect. The wheels represent the day's main challenge, massive wooden discs salvaged from grain carts and war chariots reinforced with iron bands. Each stands nearly 5 feet tall and must bear tremendous weight while allowing the horse to move smoothly across rough terrain. "Will they hold?" asks a soldier, eyeing the wheels skeptically. "They'll hold," Epius replies with the certainty that has become his trademark. I've reinforced the axles with bronze and added supports to distribute the weight evenly. You notice something new today. Armed guards positioned around the construction site, keeping a wider perimeter clear of onlookers. Secrecy seems more important now that the horse nears completion, though what secret remains when a giant wooden horse stands in plain view is hard to imagine. Trojan scouts, explains a soldier when you ask about the increased security. They've been spotted on the ridgeline to the east. We can't risk them seeing too much activity around the horse. This makes sense. The success of the plan depends on the Trojans believing the Greeks have departed, leaving only the horse behind as an offering. Too many observers would reveal the deception before it even begins. Near midday, a critical operation begins, installing the trapdoor. Epius personally oversees this work, allowing only his most trusted assistants to help. The door is a marvel of engineering. When closed, it blends seamlessly with the surrounding planking. Only someone who knows exactly what to look for would notice the faint seam that betrays its existence. The locking mechanism is even more impressive. A series of wooden sliders can secure the door from inside, yet allow it to open outward when released in the correct sequence. Epeius tests it repeatedly, making minute adjustments until the operation is perfectly smooth and silent. It must work flawlessly in complete darkness, he explains to an attentive Odysseus. By feel alone, with trembling hands. Odysseus nods, understanding the implications. When the time comes to emerge from the horse, there will be no light, no time for complications, and absolutely no margin for error. As the sun climbs toward its zenith, another group arrives at the construction site. The chosen warriors, who will hide inside the horse. Unlike yesterday's brief inspection, today they come prepared for a full rehearsal. Each carries his weapons and armor, wrapped in cloth to prevent metal clanking against metal. Epius addresses them with unexpected authority, this carpenter now commanding Greece's greatest heroes. Today we practice exactly as it will happen, he tells the assembled warriors. Full duration, full equipment. No one leaves until I give the signal, no matter how uncomfortable it becomes. The men nod grimly. They understand what's being asked. Hours in a cramped, airless space, unable to stretch or speak above a whisper. A test of endurance before the real test even begins. One by one, they climb the ladder into the horse's belly. Each warrior has been assigned a specific position, a designated space within the three-tiered interior where he must remain absolutely still for hours. The largest men take positions near the shoulders and haunches, where the interior space is greatest. Smaller, more agile warriors are placed closer to the trapdoor, ready to exit first when the time comes. Odysseus is last to enter, pausing at the opening to address the men already settled inside. Remember, he says quietly, discomfort is temporary, victory is forever. Then he too disappears into the wooden belly. Epius follows, the final man to enter. Assistants remove the ladder and seal the small access panel used for loading, separate from the trapdoor and designed to be invisible once closed. For the next several hours, the horse stands silent and still under the beating sun. Occasionally, workers apply more linseed oil to the exterior, protecting the wood from drying too quickly in the heat. Others continue adding decorative elements, painted symbols dedicated to Poseidon, small bronze accents that catch the light attractively. From outside, there's no indication that 30 of Greece's deadliest warriors sit in sweltering darkness within. No sound escapes, no movement betrays their presence. How long will they stay in there, you ask a nearby soldier. Until Epeius gives the signal, he replies with a shrug. Testing their limits. And if someone can't handle it, the soldier's expression darkens. Then better to know now than inside Troy. The implications hang in the air. Any warrior who cannot endure today's rehearsal will be replaced regardless of rank or reputation. This mission allows no weak links. As afternoon wears on, curious soldiers continue to gather at the perimeter, watching the final work on the horse's exterior. Artisans apply gold leaf to selected decorative elements, the eyes, portions of the mane, small symbols worked into the flanks. The effect is stunning, transforming the horse from merely impressive to truly magnificent. Is all that necessary? Grumbles an older soldier. Seems like wasted effort. It's essential, responds a nearby officer. The Trojans must see it as a treasure, something too valuable to destroy. This is the genius of the plan, you realize. Not just the concealment of warriors, but the psychological manipulation. After 10 years of deprivation inside their besieged city, the Trojans will see the horse as more than a religious offering. They'll view it as a prize, a treasure left behind by the defeated Greeks. Temptation and pride will do what a decade of direct assault could not. Finally, as the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, a small hatch on the horse's side opens. Epeius emerges first, his face flushed and damp with sweat. He drops lightly to the ground, then turns to help others exit. One by one, the warriors climb out, moving stiffly after hours in confined positions. Some wince as they stretch cramped muscles. Others gulp gratefully at the water carriers rush forward to provide. All look physically drained, but their expressions show grim satisfaction. They endured. Odysseus is among the last to exit. He confers briefly with Epeius, then addresses the group. 6 hours, he announces. 6 hours without a sound that could be heard outside. It will serve. 6 hours. You try to imagine spending that time crammed into a dark, airless space, unable to move, speak, or relieve yourself. The discipline required is staggering. As the warriors disperse to recover, Agamemnon arrives with his inner circle, Menelaus, Nestor, the great Ajax. They inspect the now complete horse with critical eyes, walking a full circuit around the massive construction. Magnificent, declares Nestor, the oldest and perhaps wisest of the kings. Even knowing its purpose, I find myself drawn to it. The Trojans will never resist. The inscription? Agamemnon asks, turning to Epeius. In response, the carpenter leads them to the horse's right flank, where elegant Greek letters have been carved into the wood and inlaid with silver. For their return home, the Greeks dedicate this offering to Athena. Perfect, Menelaus nods approvingly, religious enough to make them hesitate to destroy it, vague enough to intrigue them. As twilight approaches, Epeius supervises the application of the final decorative elements: horsehair for the tail and parts of the mane, thin sheets of hammered bronze for selected accents. Under his exacting direction, the horse transforms from impressive construction to awe-inspiring artwork. "It's beautiful," you overhear a soldier whisper to his companion. "Almost seems wrong to use it for such bloody purpose." "After 10 years," his friend responds bitterly, "I'd use the temple of Apollo itself if it would get me home." Such is the exhaustion of this long war. Men beyond caring about methods, focused only on results. The wooden horse represents more than a military stratagem. It embodies the collective desperation of an army too long from home. As darkness falls, Agamemnon calls for torches to be lit around the horse. In the flickering light, the massive creation seems almost alive, shadows playing across its wooden flanks like rippling muscles. The effect is both magnificent and slightly unnerving. The Viking addresses the gathered commanders, his voice pitched low but carrying in the night air. "Tomorrow," he declares, "we implement Odysseus's plan. At dawn, we dismantle the camp, burn what cannot be carried, and sail the fleet beyond the horizon to Tenedos. Only the horse remains, with our chosen warriors inside." He turns to a slight, nervous-looking man standing nearby. Sinon, a cousin of Odysseus, known for his quick tongue and convincing manner. Sinon will stay behind, apparently abandoned, to tell the tale we have crafted. He will convince the Trojans to take the horse inside their walls. Sinon swallows visibly, but nods his agreement. His role may be the most dangerous of all, alone among enemies, armed only with lies. Once darkness falls, Agamemnon continues, the fleet returns silently. When the horse is inside Troy and the city sleeps, our warriors emerge, open the gates, and we end this war once and for all. The simple brutality of the plan hangs in the air. 10 years of failed sieges, collapsed tunnels, and repelled assaults, all potentially undone by a single night of deception. As the meeting concludes, you notice Epeius standing slightly apart, his hand resting on the wooden flank of his creation. His expression is complex, pride in his workmanship certainly, but also something more somber. He understands better than anyone what his craft will unleash. Later, as the camp settles into what may be its final night outside Troy's walls, you observe an interesting ritual developing. Soldiers approach the horse in small groups, placing hands on its wooden surface while murmuring prayers or personal pledges. Some leave small tokens: a lock of hair, a carved figure, a polished stone from home. The horse has become more than a weapon. It's transformed into a vessel for 10 years of collective hope, rage, and homesickness. Epeius remains near his creation through the night, making final adjustments, applying another coat of protective oil, checking and rechecking the trapdoor mechanism. His dedication has transcended professional pride. This horse has become his life's defining work. As you prepare for sleep, thoughts of tomorrow's daring plan keep you awake. The audacity of it is breathtaking. After a decade of conventional warfare, victory may come through carpentry and theatre rather than spears and arrows. You glance toward the looming silhouette of the horse, visible even in the darkness, and wonder about the man who created it. Will history remember Epius, or will the glory go to Odysseus, who conceived the plan, to the warriors who risk everything inside, to the kings who will claim the victory? Craftsmen rarely receive the acclaim of warriors, you reflect. The man who builds the spear is forgotten, while the man who wields it becomes legend. Yet without Epeius's hands and mind, there would be no wooden horse, no final gambit for victory. As sleep finally claims you, your last conscious thought is of those hands, the same hands that trembled too much to hold a spear steady in battle, yet remained rock solid while creating the instrument of Troy's destruction. Perhaps courage takes forms the poets never sing about. Tomorrow the deception begins. Tomorrow the cowardly carpenter's masterpiece will face its ultimate test, and by this time tomorrow night the war may finally be over, one way or another. Dawn arrives with unusual activity throughout the Greek camp. For the first time in a decade, men pack their belongings with purpose rather than resignation. Tents come down, supply stores are distributed or burned, ships that have sat on the shoreline for years are prepared for launch. The evacuation, real in its physical execution, false in its intent, proceeds with remarkable efficiency. By mid-morning, the once sprawling Greek encampment has been reduced to smouldering ruins and trampled earth. Only the massive wooden horse remains, standing alone and magnificent against the skyline, positioned squarely before Troy's main gates. From your position aboard one of the departing ships, you watch as the final stage is set. Sinon, the designated deceiver, allows himself to be discovered hiding among the ruins by Trojan scouts who have cautiously emerged to investigate the Greeks' apparent departure. His performance, even from a distance, is convincing. The frightened, abandoned Greek left behind as a sacrifice, now begging for Trojan mercy. As your vessel joins the fleet sailing toward the island of Tenedos, just far enough to disappear from Trojan view, close enough to return by nightfall, you find your thoughts dwelling on those left behind. 30 warriors sealed inside a wooden belly, completely dependent on the craftsmanship of a single man and the persuasive skills of another. But what is it like inside that wooden prison? What experiences await those chosen few as they gamble everything on this audacious deception? Inside the horse, darkness is absolute. The small air holes, disguised as decorative elements on the exterior, admit only the faintest suggestion of light, barely enough to distinguish shapes, not nearly enough to see expressions or details. Epius sits near the trapdoor, his position both practical and symbolic. As the creator of this wooden vessel, he alone fully understands its construction. If anything goes wrong with the release mechanism, he must be the one to fix it. The interior space, though ingeniously designed to accommodate 30 men, remains brutally cramped. Warriors sit or crouch on 3 different levels, arranged according to Odysseus's careful planning. Each man has a designated position, a space barely large enough for his body, certainly too small for comfort. "Stop shifting," hisses a voice in the darkness. Diomedes, recognizable by the scar that marks his voice, addressing someone unseen. "My leg is cramping," comes the whispered response. "Your discomfort or all our lives. Choose." Silence follows. In the darkness, men find what small adjustments they can make without disturbing others. A shoulder pressed against rough wood, a knee touching bronze armor, the metallic smell of weapons mingled with the earthy scent of timber and the increasingly pungent odor of confined human bodies. Hours pass with excruciating slowness. Despite yesterday's rehearsal, the reality of confinement proves more challenging than anticipated. The heat inside the wooden belly builds as the sun climbs higher. Sweat trickles down faces, soaks through tunics, pools uncomfortably where bodies meet wooden surfaces. Breathing becomes a conscious effort, slow, controlled inhalations of increasingly stale air. The small ventilation holes provide minimal relief, nothing close to comfort. Odysseus has positioned himself at the center level where he can whisper commands that reach most of the confined warriors. Now his voice comes softly through the darkness. Remember your training, control your breathing, focus your mind away from discomfort. Easy for him to say, thinks Epeius, though he would never voice such thoughts aloud. The king of Ithaca has endured countless hardships in this long war, yet even Odysseus must find this confinement challenging. The surrender of control, the vulnerability of being sealed inside Epeius's creation. Suddenly, a new sound penetrates the wooden walls. Voices, Trojan voices, drawing nearer. The men inside the horse freeze, barely daring to breathe. This is the first critical moment, the Trojan discovery of their gift. The voices grow louder, more numerous. Words become distinguishable through the wooden barrier. Magnificent must be a tribute to Poseidon, left by the Greeks as they fled. Excitement colours the Trojan voices. After 10 years of siege, the sudden departure of their tormentors would be cause enough for celebration. Finding this spectacular offering only heightens their jubilation. Inside the horse, the Greek warriors remain motionless, controlling even their breathing to minimize any sound. Years of battlefield discipline served them well in this most unusual of challenges. Then a new voice joins the Trojan chorus, deeper, authoritative. King Priam himself has come to view the mysterious offering. "Read me the inscription," the old king commands. A younger voice recites the false dedication. For their return home, the Greeks dedicate this offering to Athena. Athena, Priam muses, their patron goddess, a final acknowledgement of defeat, perhaps. The discussion outside intensifies. What should be done with this magnificent wooden structure? Some argue for bringing it immediately into the city, a trophy of their victory, a religious offering too valuable to leave outside the walls. Others express caution. It could be a trick, warns a skeptical voice. We should burn it where it stands. Inside the horse, Epeius feels his heart rate spike. Fire, the one threat he couldn't fully design against. The wood has been treated with oils to prevent easy ignition, but sustained flames would eventually take hold. He glances toward where Odysseus sits in darkness, wondering if the king has a contingency for this possibility. But before panic can spread among the hidden warriors, another Trojan voice intervenes, a priest of Apollo, judging by the respectful tones directed toward him. "We must not destroy an offering to the gods," the priest declares. "Such sacrilege would surely bring divine punishment upon Troy." A heated debate ensues outside, voices rising and falling as different factions argue their positions. Inside, the Greek warriors remain frozen in tense silence, their fate hanging on the outcome of this Trojan council. Hours seem to pass, though perhaps it's only minutes stretched by fear and anticipation. Finally, King Priam's authoritative voice cuts through the clamour. "The offering shall be brought into Troy and placed in the temple of Athena. Let it stand as testimony to our victory and the gods' favour upon our city." A collective decision made. Now comes the physical challenge. Inside the horse, Epeius mentally reviews his design calculations. The structure weighs several tons, manageable when pulled by a large team over flat ground, but the approach to Troy's gates includes a slight incline. Will the wheels hold? Will the axles support the weight during the ascent? Movement begins. A sudden lurch that nearly dislodges several warriors from their positions. Men bite back curses as they brace against the wooden interior, steadying themselves and their neighbours. The horse rocks alarmingly as it's pulled forward by what sounds like dozens of Trojans, their excited voices and strained breathing penetrating the wooden walls. Each bump and jolt threatens to betray the warriors hidden inside. A dropped weapon, a dislodged piece of armour, an involuntary cry of pain as a man is thrown against the unyielding wood. Epeius feels each vibration with a craftsman's heightened awareness. Every creak, every strain of timber against joining, he recognizes the specific sounds of his creation under stress, which are normal, which might signal impending failure. The ascent toward Troy's gates begins. The incline is slight but noticeable in the increased strain of the Trojans pulling the massive structure. Inside, the warriors shift their weight backward instinctively, attempting to counterbalance the tilt. A particularly violent jolt causes something to break loose. A small bronze-fitting tears free from its mounting and clatters to the floor of the horse's belly. In the confined darkness, the sound seems impossibly loud. The procession outside halts. Voices question. Inside, 30 warriors hold their breath, hands instinctively tightening on weapons they hope not to use yet. "What was that?" asks a Trojan voice, suspicious. "Just the wood settling," answers another. "Such a large structure naturally makes noises when moved." Epeius silently blesses whoever offered that explanation. It's exactly what he would have said, what any craftsman would recognize as plausible. After a tense moment, the procession resumes. The horse continues its journey toward Troy's gates, its hidden occupants now hyper-aware of every sound they make or might make. Another challenge awaits at the gates themselves. Though Epeius designed the horse to fit through Troy's main entrance, the margin is narrow. Any miscalculation in his measurements, any unexpected protrusion from the gates could halt the entire operation. The horse stops again. Outside, Trojans discuss the best approach for navigating the final obstacle. Inside, Odysseus takes advantage of the pause to whisper almost inaudibly to the men nearest him, "Prepare yourselves. If we're discovered now, we fight our way out. No surrender." The implication is clear. If the deception fails at this critical juncture, these 30 men will attempt what thousands of Greeks couldn't accomplish in 10 years, breaching Troy's defences through sheer desperate combat. A suicide mission, essentially. Epius finds his hand moving to the small pouch at his belt. Inside rests his contingency, a sharp bronze blade, suitable for one quick, honourable end if capture seems inevitable. He suspects many of his companions carry similar insurance. Movement resumes, more controlled now. The horse advances inch by careful inch toward the gates. Epeius mentally traces their progress, visualizing the massive wooden wheels crossing the threshold, the body squeezing between the stone pillars, the proud head clearing the top of the archway. A collective gasp from outside confirms their success. The horse has entered Troy. After 10 years of keeping Greeks outside their walls, the Trojans have voluntarily brought 30 of their deadliest enemies inside. The significance of this moment isn't lost on anyone inside the wooden belly. 10 years of conventional warfare failed to breach these legendary walls. A single night of deception has succeeded where force could not. The journey continues through Troy's streets. From the sounds outside, it seems the entire population has emerged to witness this spectacle. Cheering crowds, musicians playing celebratory tunes, priests chanting blessings. The procession takes on the character of a religious festival or triumph parade. Inside, the Greek warriors endure these celebrations with grim patience. Each cheer, each joyous cry, each prayer of thanksgiving for the Greeks' departure will be answered with blood before the next dawn. The heat inside the horse becomes nearly unbearable as the day progresses. Men struggle to remain conscious in the stifling air, breathing shallowly to conserve the limited oxygen. Odysseus continues his silent vigilance, occasionally touching a neighbour's arm or leg, signals to stay alert, to endure. Finally, the procession halts. From the acoustics, the way sound suddenly echoes differently around them. Epius surmises they've reached their destination, a large enclosed space, the temple of Athena most likely, as Priam decreed. Outside, formal ceremonies begin. Prayers, offerings, speeches by Trojan leaders claiming divine favour in the Greeks' departure. Inside, warriors shift minutely, attempting to restore circulation to numbed limbs without creating noise. The worst is still to come. Hours more confinement until nightfall, until the city sleeps, until the moment to strike arrives. As the ceremonies conclude, the crowds gradually disperse. The sounds outside diminish, though guards remain posted near the horse, their movements and occasional comments audible to the men within. Afternoon stretches into evening. Inside the horse, time loses meaning in the unchanging darkness. Men drift between alert watchfulness and something approaching meditation, a warrior's ability to rest while remaining conscious, to conserve strength for the coming exertion. Epius focuses on his breathing, on the solid presence of the trapdoor mechanism beneath his hands. When the moment comes, this simple assembly of wood and bronze will need to function perfectly. Lives depend on it, not just those inside the horse, but